So, very much welcome, Petra Derksen. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes, you did.
To the podcast series of 100 Years of Biodynamics, Finnish Biodynamic Association 100-year celebration podcast series. And we're very glad to have you as a guest, Petra. And I'll introduce you a little bit because I know your work quite well, but also know that you work as a farmer as well, and you work with in Germany with a small farm with medicinal plants, and you had done your doctoral thesis also concerning agriculture, and you also work in Demeter International Biodynamic Federation.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful to have you here as our guest, and we can deep dive into the topic of biodynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But would you still like to add something about your work, because you work in these different seats? You have a very practical work, and you have a scientific work, and then you have administration work. So how do you feel about this?
Yes, interesting. Yes, I felt very much the same as was today. The speaker was introduced that just before he went really into the scientific career, he made the curve to the right direction. And so this is also how I feel about my career change. I also was assistant professor in the agricultural university in the Netherlands, Wageningen, but in the sociology department. So I did study sociological things in rural areas in agriculture, not so much an agronomy point of view. And after my thesis, I continued that path, it wasn't sense-making enough. I was always then in a supervising and teaching role, trying to inspire others, but I increasingly thought, where is my own source of inspiration then coming from? And a university is a big conglomerate of institutions where people both do gene tech, whatever, work together with Monsanto, and or do things in the sociology of peasant farming, no?
Oh, yeah,
and so,
exactly.
So I couldn't really unite myself anymore with the institution.
Good
and
point.
I thought I just want to be very clear that I want to contribute to sustainable agriculture, not being a little radar in a big institution that does also the opposite.
Exactly.
And so that was kind of all came together in. I started to grow my own food in a kind of an allotment near the city where I lived, and so then I became an organic consumer, and then I was studying about agroecology from an academic point of view, and I more and more thought I want to do this myself because I grew up on a farm, on a mixed farm.
Yeah.
Conventional, but in this kind of traditional way of having pigs,
exactly.
cows, and vegetables.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I knew that, and so then I thought, how can I enter into farming again? From there, I started searching, and I ended up in the administrative certification job for Demeter in the Netherlands, which I knew from the beginning was not to be my end station.
Yeah.
But after 10 years university, how to get into a new career is also not an easy thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I learned a lot. The learning curve was very steep. Then after a while I got involved on the international level, since if you have worked in a university, the international level is very known. You always work with international PhD students, you go to conferences and so on.
Exactly.
So the international level was really, I liked that, and so then I got into the board of Demeter International, and then within that board time we founded the Biodynamic Federation to really include all associations in the world in one roof organization. And so in the meanwhile, the trigger to really also really maybe for my own personal health, for my own mental health, to be a farmer.
Exactly.
I searched for how to do that, and I was 4 years I was part of a biodynamic farm in the Netherlands. Not in the ownership, but in doing tasks, such as spraying all preparations and making sure the preparations were there. And then finally I found my own 2.5 hectares, but that was in Germany, and so therefore now I farm in Germany on these 2.5 hectares, while combining this with the federation's work. Of course, the federation's work is indeed mainly administrative work. Any other thing would not allow me to do the farm. So the farm is my main priority. And if I would have a higher level of responsibility or more workload in the federation, I would just not be able to farm.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That sounds super interesting and quite I can go to this journey of your career development. It's amazing, and I could feels that you have walked this path of vita activa and vita contemplativa, that you combine the research with the farming work, like you said, for your mental health. And do you feel that in scientific community more and more researchers are going towards this path? Because I heard quite a few researchers or people who has done the work in academia or universities, that they really want to go back to connect the land and the nature and the farming work. Do you feel that it's getting more and more into that the researchers also need this practical side?
I don't think it has to do with with science or a researcher. I think it was identified as one of the major trends by trend watchers. And so I heard that for 2024, one of the major trends was that people are searching multiple professions, multiple careers, always then with the aim to not be only busy with the head, not only with the computer and so on. They go to make artisanal bread and sell that somewhere, or to have, I don't know, a butchery or in a new way, and then to be whatever high-level consultant on whatever other thing as well. So I see that as a really much a human need, and human need that maybe some did early and that now becomes a bit more widespread.
Exactly, yeah.
Because of the high level of burnout and the high level of depression and people not knowing why.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's for in the Western world, it's like who hasn't gone that path? It's a miracle almost in our generation, I feel.
Yes, and so especially even younger than us, I think that there is much more the search for we live now in a world with lots of challenges on the climate and on humanity. How can I make it meaningful for me?
Exactly. Yeah.
Rather than, there is also a level of people that just strives to be a millionaire and that's it. But so it's quite split. But there is a level of consciousness that money is not everything, but sense making is also related to doing something good, doing something with a value that is unquestionable.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
And that maybe even has, that you can also do with hand.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the expression value, which is unquestionable. That's something that, that should be highlighted for I don't know where in our society, but,
yes.
If you have a value which is unquestionable, then it's like... I hear also that then you do not do compromises anymore with your health or your well-being, but also not for the whole society. And do you feel that, because I also know you work with the Demeter Federation, you have been also working with this project for certification, that we should move more into this farm talk method. and I know that for that this work requires quite a lot of social competence and skills. So would you like to share a little bit of that work and how are you going with this project or development?
Yes, so the farm talks were developed in Germany and in the Netherlands, a bit kind of since the beginning of the 2000s, as a reaction on too many rules and too much the inspector that is only inspecting you on the facts.
Exactly, yeah.
So then it went through all kinds of phases, and in the Netherlands, I got to know it in the Netherlands when I started my DMET certification work, because it was then part of what the certifier needed to do. So construct groups and make sure that each group had a coach and so on. But it was at that point not yet officially part of the certification itself. And so for me as a sociologist, it was much nicer to not look at should it be or should it not be in the certification, but how to improve the thing itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then that I met with a wonderful group of coaches who were already a long existing group. They trained themselves on kind of methods how to activate farmer groups or how to get equal eye-level conversations, how to mitigate conflicts and so on.
Oh, wow.
And so they just did it in a self-training. So someone brought in a problem and what we would do role play to enact the problem and then to reflect what could one have done in another way, or what could have been another strategy, or how could one have helped that the group went in another direction. And so that type of training I then started to help with developing these training days, being part of it myself, learning a lot on coaching on the side, starting to do my own farmers groups, although I was a certifier, because it was just also fun and much more the core of the thing than looking at inspection reports.
Exactly.
So it really got my passion, and then there was always interest on the international level to also people had heard about it, other countries, and so on. So then we did a series of workshops in other countries. But it was received with enthusiasm, but it's nevertheless not so easy to integrate it because if there is not coming kind of a thing from DMET International that now, as part of the certification, you have to be in farm talks, then why would a certifier who is not really used to all that, and it's just a lot of work more, and how does this really then work? And what's the point? And so on. So it was not so easy to let it land in the associations. It landed very well with the farmer, and then if the farmer had to self-organize all the time the group, this was the weak point. And so, but if there would not be capacity or manpower or money to drive forward that there is a regularity in the meetings, then it would sink away. Even though there was enthusiasm and a very deep need felt to exchange from part of the farmers. And so therefore it didn't land in a lot of countries. For example, there are groups that function in Südtirol, in the northern part of Italy, and also a few in Austria. But it was not everywhere. The circumstances were not right.
I could imagine that, because there's also so much varieties how the different country groups and associations work as well. But it feels like it's quite a paradox at the moment if we looked at, for example, how the European Union is evolving with the Green Deal and how the organic certifications is in different countries. And I don't know, how do you feel the same? But for me, it sounds that we really would have a need such a tool as a farm talk, because I think the society in general will develop more and more about this, measurement, validation, certification method. So I don't know if the organic movement will able to adapt all this bureaucratic. So it's kind of interesting to think about that. Could this method actually create something new? But it's
In Germany, they went much further with now I think a 5 or 7 year funded project to research if indeed the farm talk could really substitute the certification.
Exactly, yeah.
Or maybe substitute for a few years, and then there would be a control. And
yes,
so,
exactly, some sort of
So they are so far now that they might move the international level, because if they want to apply that now as the new method next to or in some kind of relationship with inspection, they need approval of the international level. Then it will be in motion, and then the question will be what will other countries do? So Germany is an example country at the moment, because they have also, for example, done scientific research on whether or not consumers are scared if they hear about that there is not an inspector.
That's a good point as well.
Are the consumers really finding that this is a guarantee then? And so on. So they have done a thorough study from all sides, not only from the farmer side. It is depending on whether or not the members in Germany vote for it. That's also not a take for granted step.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's also I think it's kind of at least in Finland we have a situation with the organic movement and organic farming, because this year or last year many of the organic farmers drop out of the certification because of course one of the reasons was the price is going up, but also I think a lot of the farmers are really, how do you say, fed up with this certification. That it gets more and more strict nowadays, and it's kind of like a sad if we do not find this sort of like a new model to have the certification, but at the same time to, as I have understood, which is in the core of the farm talks, that you actually provide the farmer a reflection like this like a way to improve yourself every year in this very like dialogue based and also professional way. So I would assume that this could be for the conventional farmers also quite good way to find new motivation and
but the question then is who organizes it?
Exactly.
And so the farmers associations are more or less as associations on the conventional level in the same mood as the farmers themselves.
Exactly.
And you really need another mood to be positively thinking on what can I improve, how can I learn, can I take in the critical eye of the colleague, is he allowed to say at all something, or should they only say yes, beautiful.
Exactly. But this is fantastic, like when you say this, because imagine this sort of like the critical eye of the colleague. That's such an important factor of making a development and process, but we hardly ever do.
No, but so after what 20 years of coaching farmers groups in the Netherlands, one can say that one has created a culture of conversation.
Yes, exactly.
And so a farm talk is only a tool, but the goal needs to be much more this culture of conversation.
Exactly.
And then you have methods and you have coaches, and they do things in a certain way. This can all be changed.
Exactly.
And this can also be variable amongst countries.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, the Finnish might need another approach than the Dutch. I have no idea.
I think so, because yes, well, we do not make any Finnish jokes at the moment, but exactly. And do you feel that this culture of conversation, this new mindset that we actually very urgently we should develop and adapt in Europe, because the Green Deal will bring a lot of bureaucracy. It will bring a lot of these huge topics that it's going to be a challenge for many small farmers, and especially for the conventional farmers as well. How could we develop more this culture of conversation, where can we find the inspiration? Of course, in a podcast like this can be a source of inspiration, but what else can we do? Where does conventional farmer meet this kind of inspiration?
Good question. I do think there is a role for the association itself. But for example, I am also in a region with a lot of conventional farmers. And with the farmer protests, I also tried to be in conversations with them. It was not really. I was not very successful to integrate as a woman and not known to people. And I need to try again.
If they only would knew.
But nevertheless, I try to see, or I nevertheless try to engage. We can only try to engage, and there needs to be a willingness, an initial willingness. And so, only if those two elements are there, something can grow. So, what comes after all this anger? Only hopelessness and powerlessness, or a curiosity?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And the moment there is curiosity, one of us needs to be at that spot.
Exactly.
To pick that up.
Yeah.
But so I don't know how to organize that, because we are in very, very different communities. No? They are not in our WhatsApp groups.
Exactly.
And we are not in their WhatsApp groups.
Exactly.
And what is going around in their WhatsApp groups is quite different from ours.
You're praying very, very gently and very, very nicely. You bring the dilemma of social media part time, that we just create these bubbles. But it's fantastic. But how about if you go to the topic of the farming protests, and of course it's been a huge topic in Central Europe and Europe altogether, but in the north, of course Finnish newspaper, they reported a little, but only quite a little, and it's a huge issue, and there's a huge phenomenon behind those, and if I can ask, how do you feel about this farming protest that's been now shaking all around to Europe?
Yeah, so part of me is daughter of a conventional farmer who never saw the positive things of life. So part of me can just kind of sympathize with being pressured down with prices, being pressed down with bureaucracy, and not having the things in your hand, although you're supposed to be an independent farmer. The things coming from the outside are always somehow not good. And so I know this from because I partly also grew up in such an environment. So I can sympathize with that. The world is really getting at them, and at the same time, I had to step away a bit from the farmers' protest, because otherwise, I get hopeless. So if at the end of the day everything is already decided in politics and everywhere, and there is nothing to do, and there is this powerless feeling. That doesn't bring anything. I said to several farmers, so only from joy comes new things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Only from joy comes the inspiration, and comes maybe the innovation or the new thought. So the farmers' protest was a huge cry for this is not okay. Sympathize with that.
Exactly.
But now what?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So and just then go back into the stable and do as always, until the next anger outburst is also not really something that I can. Then my sympathy starts to be lower.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So what do we do ourselves? What is the alternative? There we need to form communities, form local CSAs, form whatever, form farm talk groups, form, I don't know, therapeutical sessions to get rid of your anger. And I don't know what, but we have to do something ourselves. And this willingness I don't really see.
It is, that's brilliantly said, that this this change has to come within from us, within from the farms, within in each individual in this sense. And it's kind of interesting to see our society that what is the end point of this if this doesn't happen. And sometimes I feel that biodynamic farming could actually contribute very much about this, because it encourages this individual approach to the soil, the land, the farm organism, and it calls you to take responsibility.
Yeah, I found the lecture of this morning very inspiring, because if you start a farm from nothing, not because there is a farm at home and someone should take it over, then, as was said, you need an idea, a vision, and this needs to be very strong, because otherwise you don't sustain the hard work.
Exactly.
Why the hell?
Exactly.
Get out of bed
so
early and so on.
Exactly.
And so I do find I found this also very fascinating when I was in the Demeter office in the Netherlands, to just go by the farms and knowing then many of them, almost all, knowing he started from scratch. He found a place and built up a huge thing from nothing.
Exactly.
All these people that came from other walks of life and then started to farm did this with a very deep conviction that they wanted to do this. And I see that a lot of conventional farmers are kind of in it somehow as a victim.
Exactly.
And the victim will never produce something new.
Exactly.
And it's too bad for them. But I feel for therefore I have this sympathy, because I experienced that a bit in growing up. But but the one can only start with if one cannot change because it's a milking farm and this dairy and you can't change and then nevertheless one needs to look at a community level together what nevertheless can be changed. There can always be changed something.
Exactly. This is a very interesting also point of view, because in Finland majority of the farms are family farms, and the next generation inherits the farm. And as we know, in Finland, agriculture scene or culture is much. It's in that way a little bit different, because the distances are huge and you're quite isolated. And after the industrialization, the social communities start to separate. And this is the question that I think. I hope that the Finnish farmers would ask more about. But what then if we just inherit the farm and this work that no one respects, and you don't have anything that keeps you get up in the morning? What can we do? And that's I don't know how to express it, but it's like you said, that you need to have this source of inspiration. But where can we get it if we are not in the same WhatsApp groups?
Yes, that's I have thought about it, because I had the flu, and so I was in fact in bed, and outside there were were these tractors that were blocking everything everywhere. Just also a bit strange. And normally people protest with walking the streets and so on, but they were somehow allowed to block days on end every single road. So they also the privilege of this big tractor was also not only sympathetic to the rest of the community. So of course there were people which thought this is legitimate because there is this anger, and other people who say, look, I'm also not satisfied with the government, but I need to go to my work, and you are not allowing this, and or doctors or nurses that couldn't get to patients and so on. So I really think after such an outcry, this cannot just be it. But I really am also not inside the structures that where I could say something like that.
That's a good point also, and I think it's for us, if you, as a biodynamic farmer, if you come for this, let's say this agriculture conference every year, and you hear and meet these people, you hear these stories how people create from out of nothing, like ecological paradises basically, and they develop themselves, and there's a hope, there's a vision, there's an inspiration, and And as I know, because you also come from Holland, and as a Finnish perspective, you always look Holland. Oh, you have such a special skill and social social aspects, and it's not our strength, and that's why I always think about. But what Finland? What can we do there? And at least I can hope that if a young farmer or person listens to this podcast, that they are inspired. Oh, who is this Petra? And goes to see your name and see your picture and your work. Maybe that's at least something. But
yes,
but it's kind of like. It's we're in a process which is going actually quite far away or fast at the moment, and that's maybe one of the last questions that I would like to ask you about. What kind of biodynamic farming can offer for the next 100 years? What is your aspect of how the future will be shaped by biodynamic farming, and how do we develop as an international movement? Does the certification develop? Preparation work develop? And there's so many different aspects. You're also involved, but what do you think about? What's the next 100 years of farming, biodynamic and also generally?
Wow. I think we will move towards more diversity, and also maybe allowing that. Also in maybe different parts in certification. For example, the German example, and if you think that through, that would already be very alike the PTS, the Participatory Guarantee System. So if we do that now very soon in the Latin context, and there is a German example, and so on. So that might infuse a more dialogue approach. Especially, I think, where we are in a privileged situation that we have an organic law that nevertheless is inspected. There is even the guarantee there on an organic level. Why not have that guarantee there? And then our certification is very different and more learning, a learning process. So I can see that we are much more ready for that than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can also see that in lots of contexts in really faraway countries, people somehow, somewhere get in contact with biodynamics, get inspired and start to do it. And from there, and not only always through a few streams of knowledge that were coming out of Germany from the past. Now they come out of a much more diverse pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Which means that these schools that were quite on how, for example, on how you do the preparations in this way or in that way, they dilute because the sources of information are much more diverse.
Exactly.
And these few guiding persons have done a huge impulse, but it's not anymore now about those few guiding persons.
Exactly.
It's about much more democratic level of knowledge and learning and getting tips and being in groups and being on the internet and meeting people at conferences and so on.
Exactly.
So I think that's a very good way, because it really fits well with our lectures that we have had now in this conference. The Michael way, the strengthening of the eye. And for this, one needs to go one's own development path. So my hope is that much more people start to want to have multiple careers.
Exactly.
So that we can integrate many more people in farming. This is often not possible because the full living cannot be. But if people seek meaning, there are a huge amount of farms that could take up more people. There is a huge possibility to start more farms. Without maybe always this idea, as a family we can't live from it.
Exactly.
And so someone someday said in a small video, those who have to don't want, the ones inherited farms from their parents, and those who are willing cannot.
Exactly.
And so that dilemma is still there.
exactly.
But I do think that with crowdfunding and with all these that with the creativity that is now possible on the money level and on combining and on having internet access in the most stupid place and
Exactly.
that there are a lot of creative possibilities now.
Exactly.
So we need young people, and there are a lot of young people here.
Yes, exactly.
And so I hope we have multiplied in 1,000 times in 100 years. No, we have now done kind of a curve, and we should now go in the steep up. Now we have done all this incubation and learning. No? So then we can multiply like a bit like Sekim. Why not have the dream that half the planet is biodynamic in the next 100 years?
Exactly. I remember when Helmi spoke about this, I was 2019 in Sekim, he said, well, it's already happening. We have thought it, so it's happening.
Yes.
And then sometimes it's, you can say it in that
yes,
our thinking
the same
really
way
plays.
as this morning, people had a vision. They started with a half a hectare, but this vision is strong, and it gets into 6, and it gets into 18, and it gets into the full-fledged biodynamic farm organism. And so that we can also think big.
Yeah, exactly. I really, I think we could talk here 2 hours, but we have to close. But thank you so much, and I really feel inspired to leave this talk in this, like you said, about these multiple professions, in this sense that imagine what potential there is, and as you, like you said, you're also social scientist, so you know this element, but that could be actually quite a good beacon for the future, that actually the farms can become much more this sort of like at least for some perspective, this, how do you say, this melting pots of professions as well, and who knows how the future goes, but at least I think biodynamic farms are already in quite good position in their at least some degree self-sufficiency and nutrient circulations, and also these social aspects that you usually find in biodynamic farms. But I think, Petra, we have to make another podcast episode at some other time, because I feel we could just go into the 10 different topics.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Petra.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.